我没有你，给你好赞。全场统一这种更风光一点。好标了有感动。很多人都开始变成双面。对啊，那三十四啊。你公司要不换？公司要换，有一个问题是双面是很贵，而且我们已经有很多就是大包的如果换双面的话，就是要80。因为这个出太多了。不然那种传统的400，一颗都刷人很快。对，还有这一点。可是有个缺点，这个一按它很飘，可以按下去。
teďka primátor a já. Dobře.
这个距离绝对会收得很清楚，才不会爆音，没问题。
If I can ask everyone to please take their seats, we're going to get started in 1 more minute. Good afternoon. Today we are delighted to welcome you all here to join the Forum on Supply Chain Restructuring, Improving Resilience Amongst Like-Minded Partners. This forum is co-hosted by the American Institute in Taiwan, AIT, European Economic and Trade Office, Japan-Taiwan Exchange Association, Taiwan Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Taiwan External Trade Development Council, and Taiwan Ministry of Economic Affairs. As one of the organizers, the American Institute in Taiwan would like to thank all of our partners from both Taiwan and our like-minded economies and countries for your partnership and presence here today. The purpose of this forum is to bring together like-minded economies to discuss areas of cooperation in order to secure supply chains for the future. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought many changes and has also caused many economies around the world to realize our shared need to develop more trustworthy trade and investment partners and supply lines for the future. Like-minded partners like the United States, the European Union, Japan, and Taiwan have a common interest to work together so that our supply chains become more resilient to fend off as well as prevent future crises. To kick today's event off, we're very fortunate to have Taiwan Foreign Minister Joseph Wu to deliver opening remarks.
The Czech Republic Senate President Vystrčil, AIT Director Christensen, EU Representative Jagoszewski. I certainly did better than my president. Japan's representative Izumi-san, Taitra Chairman Huang, distinguished members of the Czech delegation, distinguished members of the diplomatic corps, friends from the press, good afternoon. I would like to thank AIT for initiating the idea for this timely event, and I thank the EETO, JTEA, MOEA, and TITRA for co-hosting this forum to discuss the urgent and critical issue of supply chain restructuring. I'm particularly moved to see the substantive delegation led by Senate President Vystrčil, the highest-ranking Czech official to visit Taiwan since 1989. We are grateful to have you participate in this discussion in person, as we explore ways to strengthen supply chains with like-minded partners. Today's forum could not come at a better time. The outbreak of COVID-19 has exposed the risk of over-reliance on a single country or supplier for critical materials such as medical supplies or pharmaceuticals. Many countries have started to consider a key question. If medical supplies could be weaponized or politicized during the pandemic, what would happen if a country's strategic industries and key infrastructure were in the hands of another during a time of crisis, another country that does not honor the values of the rules of the law, freedom, democracy, and transparency? I believe this is a time for a different industrial landscape. In her new term, President Tsai places the development of 6 core strategic industries as her policy priority, knowing that we need to end dependence on others to get a head start on national developments. Going forward, we will work with like-minded partners to establish reciprocal industrial ties, ones that lead to joint prosperity instead of coercion, exploitation, and expansionism. Just last week, Brent and I announced a joint declaration on 5G security. I mentioned in my remarks that information security is national security. In fact, if you think of the serious shortages of critical medical supplies in the global fight against the pandemic, I'm sure you would all agree that supply chain security is also national security. And when it comes to national security, I can assure you that you could not find a more dedicated and determined partner in the democratic world than Taiwan. It is reassuring to see that more countries are now taking concrete actions to diversify their sources of supply or bring its supply chains closer to customers. I see tremendous potential for closer cooperation between Taiwan and like-minded democracies from Europe, Asia, and North America. Taiwan is your most reliable partner. We have demonstrated again and again our solid commitment and resolution to follow global standards and play by international rules. Discussions are already underway regarding supply chain cooperation in the semiconductor, medical, and energy industries. And we are thrilled to see more partners joining the alliance. Earlier this week, Taiwan signed 3 MOUs with the Czech Republic. These will further create more opportunities and channels for cooperation for industries from our both countries. Dear friends, I believe that what we are witnessing is more than the restructuring of supply chains, but also the restructuring and consolidation of values and principles alliances. And the time has come for us to ensure that the values of freedom and democracy prevail. And on that note, I would like to once again express my appreciation to Senate President Visturcho. We all know that you have come under tremendous pressure for the decision to come to Taiwan. I'm sure that with all these good and hard-working friends on board, we will create sustainable and enduring economic prosperity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Wu, and for highlighting that supply chain security is national security. Now, let us welcome the American Institute in Taiwan's Director Brent Christensen to give the welcome address. Director Christensen has been actively involved in U.S.-Taiwan economic and commercial ties for several decades, and he is one of the strongest advocates for a closer relationship between all of our like-minded economies here today. Director Christensen.
Senate President Visturcio, Minister Wu, Representative Gregorczewski, Representative Izumi, Taitra Chairman Huang, distinguished guests, good afternoon. We are delighted that this delegation from the Czech Republic made this visit to Taiwan despite the many challenges, both logistical and political. We commend Senate President Vystrčil for his vision and his leadership. I would like to first share some good news with the delegation. Just last week, the American Institute in Taiwan, AIT, and Taiwan's representative office in the United States issued a joint declaration on 5G security, echoing the Prague proposals, a set of guidelines that were so important for developing a common approach to 5G network security, adopted at the landmark conference hosted by your government in May 2019. Senate President Vystrčil and his delegation's visit to Taiwan showcases Taiwan's significance in so many areas that are vital to our future prosperity and national security. Supply chain resilience is just one of the areas in which Taiwan will play a key role in the post-COVID-19 era. The American Institute in Taiwan is pleased to co-host this forum with our like-minded partners to discuss this very important question. How can we prepare, or how can we work together to improve the resilience of our supply chains to both prevent and prepare for future crises? The COVID-19 pandemic has exposed the risks of relying too much on a single country or supplier for critical materials like medical supplies and pharmaceuticals, and for inputs for strategically important industries. The U.S. government is undertaking a whole-of-government approach to address supply chain restructuring. We know this is a challenge faced by everyone in this room, and we want to cooperate on this difficult but important undertaking. Our shared interests and shared values make us natural partners, and we believe we will be stronger and more effective if we work together. As we plan for a post-pandemic world and evaluate what changes to the global supply chains are necessary, one thing is certain. Taiwan has demonstrated time and again that it is a reliable partner and a critical player for moving toward a more sustainable global economy. Taiwan's ability to manage the pandemic is impressive, but equally impressive and truly inspiring is Taiwan's ability and willingness to offer assistance to the United States and other countries around the world in dealing with the pandemic. Over the past 8 months, the American Institute in Taiwan has engaged with counterparts in the Taiwan government, industries, and academia to explore how we can work together on supply chain restructuring. I urge Taiwan to capitalize on the unique opportunity to join the effort to reshape global supply chains for the betterment of the world. We know that Taiwan is already at the center of regional high-technology supply chains. Taiwan firms are the leading industry players that helped to develop ICT and other supply chains in the PRC over 30 years ago. However, in contrast to PRC companies, Taiwan companies adhere to the rule of law and protect intellectual property. Many firms, including Taiwan businesses, have begun to seek alternative production and manufacturing hubs as they increasingly recognize the dangers of linking their futures to the PRC. The Taiwan Ministry of Economic Affairs has already found success in business reshoring programs which have attracted more than $33 billion of investment back to Taiwan since the program was launched in January 2019. However, not every Taiwan company operating in the PRC can easily be brought back to Taiwan. There simply isn't enough space, energy, or labor. As a result, many Taiwan firms are seeking partnerships in the United States and in other like-minded economies to build out the new supply chains of the future. Helping economies, sectors, and companies to build out secure supply chains will require a coordinated effort from all of us. We hope today's event will represent progress in that difficult but critical process. As many of you know, earlier this week, the United States announced that we will be launching an economic and commercial dialogue with Taiwan. The United States wants to strengthen our bilateral economic ties across a range of priority issues and reorienting technology and medical product supply chains is at the top of the list. Before I close, I want to return to the topic of our shared values. Supply chain restructuring would seem to be chiefly concerned with national interests, especially economic interests, to ensure our supply always meets our demand. But the factor that makes the parties in this room especially good partners for such a high-stakes undertaking is actually shared values. Like Taiwan, the Czech Republic has dazzled the world by transforming itself into one of the world's most vibrant democracies and successful economies. Both places have come to symbolize how the spark of democracy and innovation can be kept alive under any circumstances. Both places inspire both their neighbors and countries around the world to be freer and more prosperous. And all of us in this room are connected by our shared values. These include our political values, equal protection under the law, respect for human rights, the freedoms of press, expression, and religion. They include our economic values, free markets, private sector-driven sustainable growth, innovation and entrepreneurship, respect for intellectual property rights, and compliance with international rules. And these include our international values, seeking to resolve global problems, providing international assistance and humanitarian aid, and exporting solutions rather than problems. These are the shared values that will inform how we reinvent the supply chains of the future. Once again, I thank the European Economic and Trade Office, Japan-Taiwan Exchange Association, Taiwan Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Taiwan Ministry of Economic Affairs, and Taiwan External Trade Development Council for co-hosting such an important forum with us and for embarking with us as partners on this path together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Christensen, and for highlighting the importance of shared values in supply chain restructuring. We also have a video greeting from the United States from Mr. Adam Bowler, who's the first CEO of the United States' newly created International Development Finance Corporation, which just began operations in January 2020. The DFC, otherwise known as America's Development Bank, is a significant undertaking by the United States to work with the private sector and foreign investors to finance projects in middle-income and low-income countries, including for purposes related to supply chain restructuring. Now let's hear Mr. Bowler's message.
Our relationship with Taiwan has never been stronger, and what the United States and Taiwan share is a commitment to free, competitive, open markets, transparency, and rule of law. And those common elements and values are what unite us as countries, and it's why we're such great friends. One of the interesting aspects of this administration relative to my role, I'm the CEO of the International Development Finance Corporation. We have $60 billion that we invest in emerging countries. And we just had the opportunity, the President signed an executive order giving the DFC the ability to invest in the United States for critical supply chains. And that's what I think is so important to the conversation today, is we have the opportunity with Taiwanese countries to bring their supply chains to the United States or to any emerging economy. And that could be a huge role of DFC. And so I would love to work with all of you. We've already made some very big announcements. I think Secretary Pompeo has made some big announcements with Commerce about some very large Taiwanese companies looking at bringing production capability to the United States. And I want to indicate my support and our financial support of any supply chain that is interested in moving to the United States, to any emerging economy, that we are open and ready to do business at the Development Finance Corporation to invest in those opportunities. So thank you very much for having me. I look forward to seeing you in the United States or an emerging economy soon.
Thank you, Adam Bowler. And now, today, we are very excited to welcome the distinguished Czech Senate President, Mr. Milos Vystrčil, who has traveled a very long way to be here. He is also leading an impressive delegation who are in attendance here today. Businesses have already developed enduring ties with Taiwan. Let us welcome Senate President Milos Vystrčil to give special remarks.
Dostal jsem červený mikrofon.
Well, I got a red microphone, as you can see.
Vážený pane ministře, vážený pane první místopředsedo Senátu, vážení kolegové senátoři, pane primátore, vážení zástupci Spojených států, Japonska, států Evropské unie, milí Tajvanci.
Your Excellency, Foreign Minister Wu, First Vice President of the Senate, Mr. Růžička, fellow senators, dear friends, dear representatives of the U.S. American Institute, of the European Economic and Trade Office, Japan-Taiwan Exchange, and Taiwan Chairman, dear friends.
Já se dopředu přiznám, že nejsem expertem na dodavatelské řetězce, ale v podstatě jsem rád, když jsem se dozvěděl, že v Taipei není české pivo.
Well, you know, to start with, I have to admit I'm not a real expert in supply chain, but I was just informed and I have learned that Czech beer is sold out in Taipei.
Třeba to není proto, že je chutné a dobré, ale třeba jsme tomu trochu přispěli a to mě těší. A já to tady říkám, protože mám pocit a cítím to docela silně v České republice, že ten problém s dodavatelskými řetězci je trošku hlubší, než si myslíme.
Well, maybe this is due to the fact, maybe it is not. The year is not sold out due to the fact that it's actually very tasty and good, but maybe it's sold out due to the fact that we might have contributed to actually selling the beer out by coming here. But I think that when it comes to the supply chains, it is a bit more complicated, you know, judging by the response I get from the Czech Republic.
My jsme velmi hrdí na to, že Česká republika se v roce 1989 stala velmi otevřenou, svobodnou ekonomikou s volným trhem.
Well, we are very proud that following the 1989 events, the Czech economy became a very open, free and market-oriented economy.
A teď vám řeknu příklad, k čemu to vedlo.
And I will share an example of what this has led to.
Jsme svobodní a můžeme cestovat, můžeme si dělat, co chceme, můžeme říkat, co chceme a můžeme se pohybovat, jak chceme.
Well, we are actually free. This was the first consequence. We can travel, we can say what we want, we can do what we want, basically we can go anywhere.
Ale také tomu dříve bylo tak, na začátku, když jsme začali ten svobodný trh otvírat, že ředitel naší školy, ať to bylo v Praze nebo třeba v Telči, když nakupoval učební pomůcky pro své studenty, tak to udělal tak, že si vybral nejlepšího dodavatele z Telče, to znamená nějakého papírníka, nějakého prodejce z Telče. Když tam byly dva, tak vybral toho, který byl slušnější a u něj si ty pomůcky koupil. Věděl, že ten člověk je určitě dodá a věděl, že když nebudou kvalitní, že on už nikdy nic v Telči neprodá.
Well, but it actually used to work differently at the very beginning. I mean, the market, because if you actually go back to the times right after the change of the regime, and if you take a headmaster of a school that was in need of actually acquiring some equipment or stationery for his school, let's say, and it was a headmaster in Prague or in Telč, so if it was a headmaster in Telč, he would actually go to the local stationery shop to actually ask for the quotation, and if there were two shops by accident, he would actually request quotation from both, and he would actually purchase from the one that has a better reputation. But the main thing was that the headmaster of the school was actually sure that the delivery will take place, and in case that the delivery would not stand up with quality, the stationery owner was actually, it was sure for him that he would never sell anything else again in the city.
Pak někdo přišel na to, že by se mohlo stát, že ten ředitel té školy dostává někde bokem od toho prodejce učebních pomůcek z toho samého města peníze a proto kupuje právě ty učební pomůcky a přijali jsme nový zákon o zadávání veřejných zakázek.
Well, but later on, somebody has realized that it might be the case that the very same headmaster, when procuring stationery and books for his school, might be actually getting something on the side along with the supply. So therefore, we changed the law and we have introduced the Public Procurement Act.
Takže nyní dneska ředitel školy v Telči vypisuje veřejnou zakázku na nákup toaletního papíru a dodává mu ho globální firma z Prahy, protože je lacinější než ten prodejce toho toaletního papíru v Telči.
So the way it works right now is that the same headmaster of a school, of elementary school in Telč, is actually now organizing a public procurement tender for toilet paper for his school. And the situation is such that the toilet paper is at the end supplied by a global company residing in Prague because its toilet rolls are cheaper than the ones supplied by the local shop.
Když pominu to, že prodejce v Telči prodejnu zavřel, protože neměl dostatečné tržby, protože to nebyl jediný případ, který ho připravil o odbyt, tak jak víme, že ten prodejce z Prahy, který je globální, tu cenu nepodhodnotil?
And of course, if I leave aside the fact that the stationery shop owner in Telj had to close down because simply there was not enough business to keep him going and to keep up the shop open, how do we know that the global supplier from Prague is not supplying the toilet paper rolls for a price which was actually not determined correctly? It was actually maybe put too low, or he bid it too low, or something like that.
Když jde o toaletní papír, můžeme si říci čertovém, ale co když půjde o naši bezpečnost?
Yeah, but this is like toilet paper, so one can say, okay, who dares? But what if your security is at stake?
Nebude náhodou to jednou tak při zákonech, které například v Česku přijímáme, že nemáme výrobce ochranných pomůcek proto, že je nakupujeme od někud, kde jsou jejich ceny, kde nám nabízejí ceny podhodnocené?
So maybe wouldn't be the case in the future, looking at the acts and legislation that we are adopting in the Czech Republic, that we might be purchasing and acquiring in the future, school supplies from companies with the prices that have not been set on the correct level.
A my v Česku dneska máme zákon, který přikazuje tomu řediteli nemocnice nakoupit ochranné pomůcky takové, které jsou nejlacinější.
And of course, the currently valid legislation in the Czech Republic is written in a way that the director of a hospital has to purchase medical supplies and equipment for the lowest price that was bidded in the public tender.
A pokud toto nezměníme, pokud nezačneme více věřit sami sobě, svým výrobcům a tomu, že když od nich budeme nakupovat, tak to pro všechny bude nejlepší, protože oni dokáží dohlédnout toho, že pokud by dlouhodobě se chovali způsobem, který není pro nás přijatelný, že by zkrachovali, tak vlastně jsme velmi ohroženi.
And of course, unless we change the legislation and unless we start to believe and trust into ourselves a little bit more and engage our local suppliers in this system, because they would be actually very well aware of the fact that they would not actually be able to maintain their position on the market if they did not meet their promises and not supplied the equipment, we might be in danger.
Protože největší slabinou demokracie je, že je demokracií.
Because the biggest weakness of democracy is the fact that it's a democracy.
A největší slabostí otevřené ekonomiky je, že je otevřená.
And the biggest weakness of an open economy is the fact that it's opened.
Protože potom to umožňuje nedemokratickým režimům, případně podvodníkům v nějakém okamžiku toho využít a systematicky zničit poctivého prodejce z Telče nebo dodavatele ochranných pomůcek z Prahy.
And of course, the non-democratic suppliers or people who are actually doing the business for not fair purposes or for their own interest, we can actually allow them to destroy our suppliers from Telč or the supplier of medical supplies from Prague.
Vyplatí se mu utratit navíc, prodělat 1000, milion, miliardu dolarů proto, aby tady nebyla konkurence a aby tady vznikla závislost na jediném dodavateli.
Because it will pay off for him, for this supplier, to to pay extra 1,000, extra million, extra billion, whatever the price would be, for actually making the situation, making the country dependent on him.
A pokud nenajdeme odvahu toto měnit, pokud nenajdeme odvahu s tímto něco udělat, tak si myslím, že pořád budeme mít problém se vznikem dodavatelských řetězců, které jsou nebezpečné.
So unless we actually manage to do something with this, to change something in this attitude, we will continue to have a problem with global supply chains coming into place, and the global supply chains that will be dangerous for us.
Já osobně se na závěr přiznám, že nemám žádné řešení.
By way of conclusion, I have to admit I do not have a solution at hand.
Jsem příznivcem svobody, demokracie, otevřeného tržního hospodářství.
I am a great supporter of freedom, democracy and open economy.
A zároveň vidím, že to v sobě skrývá velké nebezpečí.
At the same time, I can see it actually harbors a great danger.
Jediné, co podle mého názoru nám zbývá, že se budeme chovat rozumně, že demokratické země budou spolupracovat a že budou na toto nebezpečí neustále myslet.
The only thing is that what we can do is that the countries will actually behave in a responsible way. The democratic countries will cooperate, and this will actually help us to overcome.
A že třeba budeme mít odvahu někoho, kdo koupil dražší telefony, protože je považoval za bezpečnější, nepranířovat a nekritizovat.
And hopefully this will actually provide us with the courage not to criticize someone who actually bought rather expensive telephones because they are considered to be safe.
Jinými slovy, my musíme starost o naše bezpečí začlenit mezi kritéria, podle kterých se budeme chovat.
In other words, we have to actually include the care for our own safety among our criteria and virtues that we will follow.
Musíme na tom pracovat společně, musíme na tom pracovat intenzivně a musíme na tom pracovat tak, abychom zároveň neohrozili svobodu a demokracii.
We have to work on this together. We have to work on this with a high level of intensity, and we have to work on this in a way that we do not lose our freedom and democracy.
Špatná zpráva je, že pokud se o to pokusíme, tak to nikdy nebude dokonalé.
The bad news is, if we attempt to do that, it will never be perfect.
Je to proto, protože člověk není dokonalý. Dokonalý je pouze Bůh.
And that's simply because, a man cannot be perfect. Only God is perfect.
Dobrá zpráva je, že se, pokud budeme spolupracovat, můžeme pořád k tomu dokonalému modelu přibližovat.
However, the good news is, if we cooperate, we can actually get very close to the perfect model.
A k tomu si vás dovolím dnes vyzvat. Děkuji za pozornost.
And I would like to appeal on all of you to try to achieve that. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Senate President Milos Vystrčil, for your special remarks and for being with us in person today. Thank you for highlighting that it's incumbent on each one of our countries and economies to behave responsibly and cooperate to overcome the challenges that we're dealing with today. Now I'd like to ask our distinguished guests to come up to the stage for a group photo. So if I could ask Senate President Vistricil to come back up to the stage. If I could ask Foreign Minister Wu, Director Christensen, EU Head of Office Zhirgalski, Representative Izumi, Chairman Huang, if you could please come up for a group photo to the stage. If I could ask everyone to look at the official photographers in the back of the room, please. Thank you so much. If you could please return to your seats. Now I'd like to ask the European representative, Mr. Filip Zhigajowski, to please stay on the stage, and we welcome you to deliver your special remarks.
Thank you very much. Minister Joseph Wu, distinguished delegation, AAC Director Japan Izumi, TAITRA Chairman James Huang, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Jsem rád, že tu můžu dnes být. I'm very happy to be here. The participation of so many distinguished speakers shows that this topic is really important and the conference is really timely. We face a challenge. We face something that we need to deal with together. And that's why I'm here, because it's a topic of global importance. It's a topic that is important for the European Union as much as it is important for the United States, as much as it is important, by all means, for Taiwan. And the Czech Republic being a proud member of the European Union, it's only natural that we co-host this event together with our partners. COVID-19 has brutally laid bare our vulnerabilities. When the epidemic broke out in Europe, we became painfully aware that the production of critical products to protect the health of our citizens had often been outsourced. In the initial phase, we depended on imports from other countries of ventilators, masks, of pharmaceuticals. Often these countries experienced similar shortages and put in place export restrictions, or we faced transportation difficulties due to limited air freight capacity, or seafarers were quarantined in ports and critical goods could not be delivered. So there were many challenges that we painfully experienced. And this list of potential vulnerabilities can be extended. It's really long. Yesterday we faced the problems of medical equipment. Tomorrow we may experience other shortages that are key to our daily lives. For instance, COVID-19 has shown that it is crucially important to cooperate beyond medical supplies. And next could be IT sector. And what would happen if in future crises the supply of energy, of food, falls short. In Europe, we have started a reflection process on how we can better protect ourselves and how we can make our supply chains more resilient while remaining an open and integrated economy. It doesn't mean that we have the answers. We are not there yet, but in June, the European Commission opened a public consultation asking two key questions. The first question was, how can the European Union become truly resilient and build a model of open strategic autonomy? This open strategic autonomy is a new thing, concept. I'll get back to it in a second. And the other question that we asked in the public consultations was, how can the European Union alone or with other trading partners support its business to solidify and diversify supply chains? Well, what do we mean by the concept of open strategic autonomy? It simply means that the European Union wants to become less dependent in strategic sectors while continuing to work with our partners around the world. And this is really important. We do not close ourselves. We still want to cooperate. Strategic autonomy does not mean self-sufficiency. It's not the same. The EU is itself highly integrated, including in global value chains. Therefore, self-sufficiency is not an option for us. It would not work. The reality is that we all depend on essential products from elsewhere. No country can secure the full supply on its own. For example, ventilators require 900 parts from all over the world. Gloves require rubber. Face masks are made by using a form of plastic, polypropylene. At the same time, countries around the world rely on very sophisticated, very technically advanced medical products produced in Europe to fight the crisis. Building more resilient supply chains can also mean very different things for different people in different countries. It can range from diversification of supply at country and at company level, strategic reserves, stockpiling, shortening of supply chains, or increasing production. So there are different ways of addressing this issue. We may also look into how to make supply chains more sustainable. We can only achieve this objective by working together with the private sector. So we are on the side of the administration. We represent the government, and we are talking about the matters that are in the hands of the business community. So it's a huge responsibility on us to now convince them that actually it is in their interest to rethink the supply chains. At the end of the day, it's the private sector which organizes the supply chains, and we know that many companies started to look into this. Some already move from a just-in-time to a just-in-case business model. It's a different philosophy. It will require also different perspective on costs. But it seems now that it's worth it. Whatever the individual approach, it is clear that new business opportunities will emerge as a result of this process. Our societies and business should take advantage of these new opportunities. And in this context, cooperation with key trading partners in accordance with our values and creating alliances with like-minded countries has become even more important. Taiwan plays a central role in the global economy, and it is renowned for working in global value chains, in particular in the ICT and semiconductor sector. We also very much welcome the possibilities of trilateral or plurilateral cooperation with the US and with Japan. The European Union is keen to learn from our like-minded partners ways to protect and to strengthen global supply chains from health, geopolitical, and all other kinds of risks. Let me end with a quote. This time, I'll not quote a Chinese thinker. I'll quote someone else who said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And it's a quote from Abraham Lincoln. And it's quite wise. So we do have an impact on the future. The best way to predict it is simply to create it. And we have now this possibility to rethink how we cooperate, how we improve resilience amongst like-minded partners. And I hope this event will help us create a better future for our societies, inspire business, and we will learn the lessons from the COVID-19 epidemic and will come stronger than before. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to Philip Zhugajowski for those very inspiring remarks on how we can build resilient supply chains together and with the private sector. Our next special remarks will be from Mr. Hiroyasu Izumi, representative of the Japan-Taiwan Exchange Association. Please, Representative Izumi.
Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of the Japan-Taiwan Exchange Association, I would like to extend a warm welcome to you. I am delighted to co-host today's forum with Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Taiwan, Ministry of Economic Affairs of Taiwan, the American Institute in Taiwan, the European Economic and Trade Office in Taiwan, and TITRA. Especially, I heartily welcome our guests from Czech Republic. In 2015, the Global Cooperation Trading Framework, GCTF, was launched by Taiwan and the US, followed by the Japan-Taiwan Exchange Association as a full partner in 2019. I look forward to having more countries, including Czech Republic and the other EU member countries, join the GCTF in the future. Now the world is facing the worst economic crisis in the post-war period as a result of the new coronavirus pandemic. The IMF's economic outlook indicates that it can be the worst recession since the Great Depression in the 1930s. In Japan as well, we suffered the worst GDP contraction in the April-June quarter since World War II. Restrictions on the movement of people to avoid the pandemic have caused the shrinkage of businesses such as travel, hotel, and airline industries, as well as suspension of production activity and logistics operations. Moreover, the growth of international division of labor has disrupted cross-border supply chains, seriously affecting income and employment. This pandemic has revealed the need to strengthen international cooperation and build up resilient supply chains that guarantee the flexibility in responding to a new crisis. Global pandemic requires a global response. The effort of individual countries is not enough to control it. Besides, ensuring a robust supply chain is an urgent issue from the perspective of national security. It is therefore essential to cooperate with our like-minded partners. Japan and the ASEAN members states released the ASEAN-Japan Economic Ministers Joint Statement on initiatives on economic resilience in response to the coronavirus disease outbreak in April this year. We have agreed to create resilient supply chains to address the unprecedented challenges surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition, our association is currently working on third country market cooperation with Taiwan. Together with JETRO and TITRA, we support Japanese and Taiwanese companies to expand it into third countries, mainly consist of target areas of the new Southern policy. I am certain that this approach contributes to constructing decentralized and resilient supply chains. Last but not least, it is a great pleasure for me to hold the forum today. I hope we will overcome severe economic conditions under the COVID-19 pandemic through cooperation with like-minded partners. I'd like to appreciate everyone for your effort and commitments in organizing today's forum. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Izumi, for your special remarks and for highlighting the GCTF platform, which is great cooperation between U.S., Taiwan, and Japan. And similar to that platform, we can do the same with supply chain restructuring. Now, to provide our final closing remarks for today's event, we're very fortunate to have Mr. James Huang, Chairman of Taiwan External Trade Development Council, otherwise known as TITRA. Please, Chairman Huang.
Senate President, Mr. Chair of the Czech Republic, Minister Wu, Director Christensen, Representative Jabukowski, Ambassador Izumi, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm very honored to be here with you at this critical juncture of the 21st century. We are gathered here today at a time when the global community is being tested by a great challenge. The way we live is hanging in the balance. But today, we see the perfect example of how humanity can stand together to overcome any challenge. President Vistacho, you are a true champion of democracy. Your visit is not only monumental for the history of Taiwan, but for humanity as well. You said that when it comes to values versus financial benefits, if we focus on money, we will lose our values and money too. I cannot agree more. Our values are not for sale, and there is no price on freedom. Our values should drive our economy and not the other way around. Many people see 2020 as the hardest year for the global economy, but I said to them, no. Times of crisis are times for change. We must see 2020 as the best year for us to reinvent ourselves. This is the year for us to step up and show our friends what we got. Thanks to Director Christensen, we are gathered here today for the rebuilding of our common future. A 21st century Marshall Plan, as I see it. This is why we are gathered here. We will reinvent our supply chains and lead the next generation into a better future. The 1947 Marshall Plan ensured peace, stability, and prosperity in a post-war Europe. In the same way, our restructuring plan will promote peace, stability, and prosperity in the post-pandemic Indo-Pacific region and other parts of the world. If the Wuhan outbreak taught us anything, it's that it was entirely avoidable if openness and transparency were practiced. Openness works, and transparency can save lives. The outbreak highlighted the importance for us to ensure our supply chains with the values we believe in, especially in the ICT and medical sectors. Supply chains should never consume our freedom. If we give in little by little, one day we'll find ourselves losing more than what we already lost with COVID-19. We want to preserve a future grounded in universal values, peace, freedom, social progress, equal rights, and human dignity. Because only then can goodness and prosperity follow, as witnessed in all freedom-loving countries. Like all democracies, we live peacefully by our values. but COVID-19 turned us upside down. Like a global wake-up call, we find ourselves needing a vaccine to continue our peaceful way of life. But I'm afraid a vaccine is not enough. We need a strong, long-term solution. We need to restructure the DNA of our supply chains. It won't be easy, but like Director Christensen said, real friends, real progress. Real friends will lead to real progress. In the past 5 decades, Taitra has been working very closely with our friends at home and worldwide to promote good partnerships. It would be our honor to play a role in bringing in Taiwanese enterprises for the formation of a new, free, resilient, and efficient global supply chain. The Taiwan-US Business Alliance we formed with AIT, the third country supply chain dialogue we had with JETRO, the Japanese Trade Organization, and our active participation in European Enterprise Network are some of the many mechanisms that are already in place to facilitate our cooperation in this new undertaking. We will work with like-minded partners and everyone here to create productive networks based on our shared values. And again, I want to thank President Vestager. I want to thank him for standing with us. I believe he is a true Taiwanese, and we stand on the right side of history. And thank you, Director Christensen, and everyone here today. We will expand our participation and deepen our cooperation in all the related industries and fields. And we will ensure our new supply chain and our future are resilient and closer to home. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Huang, for reminding us that our values drive our economy and our values are not for sale. So thank you all again for coming here today, and we hope that this forum will spark further dialogue and action on the important topic of securing supply chains for the betterment of our economies. Now I'd like to ask for social distancing, if we can allow the Czech delegation to first exit the room, and let them exit the room, and then others, please feel free to mingle. Thank you so much.